Hey, folks. Anybody out there? Why don't you go ahead and start asking questions? Oh, somebody's already said Happy New Year. Hot look. Um, Happy New Year right back to you. Hope you guys all had a great 2023 and hope you got that car you wanted with a big red bow for Christmas or Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. I'm here to talk about the top 11 list that I do every year. The thing is, mine is a little bit different because I am an independent writer. I don't have an outlet behind me anymore since I left the New York Times. And so it's just one guy, and I don't get to drive everything. I didn't get to drive the latest Acura Integra, the Type S. I always mix those up, the A Type and the Type S. And I heard that's a brilliant car. So next year, that could make my list. Next year, Andrew Nicole, message retracted. So it's just me and Martin, and we discuss the cars and try to figure out, what's the best, car for what people are going to really drive, right? Because there's lots of great high performance cars out there. Those are the kind of cars that I personally like the most. But I know that performance cars are, they're like 5% of what people buy these days, which is kind of sad. It's same with manual transmissions. People don't buy those. So I'm going to be taking a couple questions like Paul Moore. Hi, I love the channel. Bought my most recent car, a used 2013 Leaf. Oh, thanks. Well, I'm glad that I can help. My brother John, who lives in Seattle, also had a 2013 Leaf, but not anymore because it got totaled, unfortunately. And so he ended up buying a Bolt EUV. He got one of the last ones that you could get in 2023. And for everybody who talks about electric cars, and all the problems with them, I know for certain that after the car was totaled, the battery pack, which was still in great shape, it had 120,000 miles on it because my brother drove the wheels off that thing. That battery pack was repurposed. I know that for a fact. So, all right, let's get back to the top 11 list. Yeah, there's a wide variety of cars on my list. Everything from the Buick Envista and the Chevy Trax. I really wanted to drive the Chevy Trax because so many of my automotive writer friends said that it's really a great deal, super bang for the buck. But I just couldn't get one to drive. So there's that. The most expensive car on my list, and the Buick goes for $24,000. Adjusted for inflation, that is very inexpensive. It really is, and it's roomy and it looks good. It's nice. It's not a penalty box. The most expensive car on the list was the Lucid Air Grand Touring, and that was around $120,000. It's hard to know because Lucid has dropped its prices, and they have these incentive deals that are going on. And so I can't really nail that price down. So, but go to your local Lucid store and find out. They're just gorgeous cars. They really are. Let's see. Let's take some questions. How would you compare the overall quality of Lucid and Rivian? Quite good. The one that I had was a very early build. And, there were a few little sniggly things, but, hardly as bad as VinFast. I've seen one VinFast and it was like, yikes. The early Teslas were pretty bad. Tesla's catching up, but I still see cars that have obvious quality issues with those. So I think they're doing pretty well. I get to drive these cars, the Rivians and the Teslas, um, but I'm working on getting a Rivian tester, for like 3 or 4 days, so I can really do a shakedown test on it. And Tesla just makes it really difficult for me to test their cars. And if a manufacturer is making it that hard, these reviews and videos that I produce, I spent days shooting them, editing them, and writing. And if a manufacturer is going to make it that difficult, I'm just not going to bother. It's just not worth my time. And other people review them. I am not the end all be all of car reviews. So, I try to give you the best reviews on the interweb, but, just one guy. Most people are doing this with an army of production people, but, it's just me and Martin. Martin and I go out on Saturday morning and get running footage and drink coffee and talk about what our kids are doing. So, all right, let's see. Thanks for try not to get sucked into a family SUV, huh, Brad? The thing is, I don't know how many kids you have. Get a minivan. I don't know why people hate minivans so much. You know what? Personally, I mean, I love design and everything like that, but I have never considered a car to be a status symbol. You drive an expensive car, well, maybe you can afford it. Maybe you've just got a really super good lease deal. I just don't see cars. I see cars as tools. I mean, I see cars as art as well because I love design. But the Kia Carnival is a terrific minivan. Apparently, the Toyota Sienna is really, I think Car and Driver just did a recent minivan shootout, and they said that Toyota Sienna was number one. But apparently those things are impossible to get. My dad was buying a minivan and literally waited for 9 months to try to get a Sienna and just couldn't get it. So he ended up buying a Carnival, and he loves it. He's got dogs and stuff, so he needs it. But if you don't do that, a Honda Accord, it's on my top 11 list. The Honda Accord is brilliant. It really is. It drives well. You get the hybrid. It gets like 40 miles to the gallon. You really can't go wrong with that vehicle. There's also the Hyundai Sonata. Lovely, lovely car. It's going to get a slight redesign, actually a kind of a major redesign, mid-cycle refresh, excuse me. And then the Kia K5, there are some good mid-size sedans out there. Check them out. All right, let's see here. If you could make one of your Chevron cars into a real life-size operable, what would it be? The last one that they made is a gull wing, so that would be it. Fun fact. Other than all the variations of the minivan that they did, I own every single Chevron car except for one. There was one that was given away as a gift when Chevron opened the Autopia exhibit at Disneyland. And so they gave away 200 of them. It's called the Gold Dusty. It's like plated in gold. So apparently those things are going for like $5,000 and $6,000 on eBay, and I don't have that kind of money for a dumb little car. So, but I just started collecting them on a whim, and then it just got out of control. So let's see. Like you love the streamline. This is all moving so fast. You also like the EQs? Yeah, I do. The Mercedes EQ design language is getting savaged by some people. I don't get that. I like it. I like real super clean design. I mean, different cars work in different ways. But I do like real clean design. I think that's a black art because a car can be super clean and not, you can't really pull it off. Or you can. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It's just design is really, really difficult. I mean, people don't understand how difficult it is because I get to talk to designers and they tell me all of these things. That to make a car look expensive, there are all sorts of little tiny subtle things that designers do to give it that sort of feeling. And I think what's great about Hyundai and Kia is that they've egalitized that. They've given us really great designs for vehicles that are just in the regular cars that you and I would buy. I was talking to the design director of Aston Martin, and I always ask, design directors, this was back about 7 or 8 years ago. And I said, whose work do you like? Who's doing great work? And he just, without even missing a beat, he said, Kia. He goes, they're absolutely killing it. They're amazing. I look at their vehicles and I'm super impressed. So there you go. Yeah, I like the EQ design. Yeah. David, yes, minivans are the most practical. Excellent, dude. Happy New Year to you. You love your Sienna, practical. Yeah, yeah. Minivans, they make life easy. I did a story for the New York Times about minivans, and why they weren't doing as well. And I talked to the folks at, back in the day, it was FCA, now Stellantis, Toyota, and Honda. And they said that the research showed that guys actually like minivans because they're almost like covered pickups, right? They're very useful. Most of them, you can get a 4x8 sheet of plywood into them. But it's women. Women are like, no, no, I will not be seen in a mommy mobile. And the reality is what is the average suburban housewife driving these days? An SUV. And somehow that has not been saddled with the mommy mobile stigma. And I don't know how that has not happened. But, fun fact, the Ford Explorer, the original one that came out in 1990, was aimed primarily at women to get them out of minivans because Ford was not doing well with minivans. They just thought, well, look, we can take the Ranger pickup chassis and we can put a rugged looking top on it and make it practical. And boy, did it work. Crazy how popular that thing was back in the day. Thanks, Alex. Yeah. There are going to be fewer reviews this year because I've got a lot going on. I need to go visit my parents down in the South. My daughter is getting married. So there's lots going on. So do I watch other YouTube car reviewers? I don't. I really don't. I know these guys. I meet them at events and all. Joe Ratty and the guys at Savage Geese. They're great guys. Everybody's trying to do a good job. But I don't. For one thing, after I'm done shooting a video, editing, the last thing I want to do is watch anything. My wife is always saying, "What do you want to watch tonight?" And it's like, I don't know, you, because I don't want to watch a television screen. You just get tired of it. So I really don't. Also, the other thing is I'm trying to keep my opinions, and I don't want to be colored by anybody else. So I don't. And sometimes I have to apologize to these people that I meet at events. I just don't, and maybe I should to get ideas, but I am me for better or for worse. So I don't. Yeah, they're pretty good. I mean, I see them like, once every couple months or something like that. But yes, everybody is trying really hard, right? And I do what I do. All right. Uh, any thoughts on a used Volt versus a used Prius Prime? The Volt, I remember when I was doing it, the Volt has more electric range. I believe if you're talking about a second generation Prius Prime, I want to say it has, 25 miles of range. My wife has a second generation Volt, and depending on the temperature, it ranges from, high 30s to low 50s as far as range goes. And I think that's a good solid 10, 15 miles more than the Prius. Volts typically hold up very, very well. There is this thing that only Toyota makes reliable vehicles. Um, Come on, guys. Everybody's making really good vehicles. I mean, yeah, there are some that aren't so great, but those are few and far between. There are very few vehicles that I wouldn't buy because of their reliability records. They just aren't. A lot of times, the reliability really depends on how long or how well you're taking care of it, whether you're doing the regular maintenance or not. Um, I stay away from reliability because it's really difficult to figure that out. I mean, if you go by statistics, I think Toyota has an edge, but it's slight though. For me, it's more important to get the car that I love, the one that makes me feel good about getting into it every time I do. I've had my Cadillac ELR, which is built on the first generation Volt architecture since 2016. Had one issue with it. And now I take that back, two issues. The screens on all of them went bad. That was a known issue, and that was replaced under warranty. No big deal. And then I had my heater go on me. So, of course, it happened when it was really, really cold. But it got fixed quickly. It was not that big of a deal. Cars, they have lots of moving parts. They are the most incredible consumer product on the planet by far. There's nothing more complex. And they sit out in the cold and the heat and the rain and the snow, and they still work. They're amazing things. All right. Kia Hyundai throughout their model have delivered some great designs. Yes. Yes. Hyundai and Kia are killing it in the design department. They really are. A used Lexus GS 350 2013. I did review the GS back in the day when it came out, but again, as we're talking about used cars, the main thing to take into consideration is whether or not it has all its service records. Was it driven by a little old lady to church, to get groceries? Things like that. There is that car in my neighborhood. And I keep telling my neighbor, if you're ever going to sell your Lexus, it's an SC and it's beautiful. Yeah, like I need another car. So really, honestly, the GS, I mean, the main thing is that it's in good shape and then you like it. Okay. Uh, Here's another thing about automotive reviewers. People will email me all the time and ask me, should I buy this and should I buy that? And the reality is that I don't know, because I don't know your lifestyle. I don't know what you like. I don't know your hopes and dreams and all of that kind of stuff. I can only go so far. I can tell you if the car does what it is intended to do. And that's the big thing. Like, the Miata is an absolute romp, right? It's a great vehicle, but it's not a great vehicle if you have three kids. So it's all in perspective. Okay. Audi Q8 e-tron update, more range, faster charger. Dandy, I have that in the can. I have shot that vehicle, and it's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, it's a very heavy mid-cycle refresh on that car. Definitely, they've improved the battery chemistry. There are new motors. It's definitely better. And it's funny. It reminded me that back in the day when I tested the first generation, I thought, because the range was disappointing for some people. I think it was like, realistically, it was around 190 miles of range, and 150 kilowatts of charge speed. I knew that these things were going to drop like a rock when it came to pricing, because and also things were improving in the battery technology and charging speed and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, I am going to snap one of these up off lease, and it's going to be super cheap. Well, then the pandemic happened, and that didn't happen. So, but I love the vehicle, and it's got great technology and all that kind of stuff. I'm actually thinking about revisiting that, because I am going to buy an electric vehicle in 2024, I think. And I'm all over the map on what I might buy. Because what I want to do is I want to do a bunch of stories about it. So I have a Cadillac Lyric on order, but whether or not I actually take it now is a thing, because it was delayed forever. Like, the General Motors just can't seem to build them. They had a tough time perfecting the Ultium battery building process, apparently. I believe the technology is solid, but they just had a real tough time, building those things. And now they've finally started building them. And I got word that mine is actually built, but it comes in this very small window where it doesn't get the $7,500 federal tax credit. If I would have been able to get it last week, I would have gotten it. But now I don't. And for me, $7,500 is a big deal. Because I'm an independent car reviewer. I am not Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. I have to watch my budget, just like the rest of you folks do. And for journalistic integrity, I'm not taking deals on the cars or anything like that. I'm buying them like a regular person would. So, anyways, that's a long way of saying, I'm taking my own advice, and if it doesn't work out, I'm just simply walking away, which kind of hurts, because the Lyric, once you see him in person, there's very few out there. It's a really neat vehicle. It really is. So we'll see. But anyways, the Q8 e-tron is coming up soon, a week or two, maybe three. But yeah, it's a nice vehicle. All right, let's get through this. How has the car review space evolved over the years? It's nuts. I mean, I remember back when I started, like 20 years ago. I was the only guy doing video. I would go to events. The first one that I was invited to was the new generation, when they finally got rid of the Fox platform, the Mustang. And I showed up with the TV camera, and everybody there, the old school car reviewers, looked at me like I was insane. I mean, really, it was, I could have had antenna growing out of my head. They couldn't get over it. And was frankly sort of, like, I wouldn't say shunned, but they looked at me like, who is this idiot? And slowly but surely, I've become the normal. All of these people who are doing reviews on YouTube and TikTok and all that kind of stuff. It has changed considerably. Um, and the thing is that there is some talk about, when I go to events, people will say, "Oh, you're going to a nice hotel and nice meals and wining and dining and all that kind of stuff." And I get it. People think that, I'm I'm being bought and sold, or that, as a group. But I think the reality is if you look at all the reviews, we will all pick out, this is good and this is not so good. And this is like, what were you thinking? So, the thing is that if you look at multiple reviews, you will find that, everybody's being pretty honest. Now, there are a few reviewers out there that are only there for the hotel rooms and the nice meals. That's true. I'm not one of them. I would be happy to stay in a Motel 6 and eat McDonald's on my own nickel if I had access to the car for like 48 hours. It's just, but it's what we need to do to get access to the cars. So there you go. That's life as an automotive journalist. I want to place my, let's see, want to replace your 2017 Volvo V90 cross country. Are there any PHEVs that have seats as comfortable as the Volvo? Yeah, a Volvo. There's Volvo has lots of plug-in hybrids now. My son, I brought him up right, really wants a V60 cross country, and it's a plug-in hybrid. There's also the new V90, I believe, is a plug-in hybrid. I'm pretty sure. I think just about every vehicle that that Volvo makes now is available as a plug-in hybrid, except for the XC40. That's either all electric, a recharge model, or just gas only. I think it's the only one that's not available as a plug-in hybrid. I could be wrong. That's the other thing about being a journalist. I think a lot of people think that I should know these things off the top of my head. And I always have a very, very, very educated, not guess, but, base of knowledge. But the reality is that I think at the last time somebody actually counted, there's like 450 different vehicles for sale these days in the United States. And then there's variations on those, so sometimes, I don't always get it right, always going for complete accuracy, but yeah. Was wondering how the ELR was doing. Yes, the ELR is doing great. The only problem with the ELR is I don't get to drive it as much because I'm always driving everybody else's cars. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it when I get an electric vehicle, because I live in Seattle, not a lot of parking. Don't have a lot of parking at my house. And I really want to keep the ELR, and I think I'm going to put it in storage for a year while I figure out if I'm going to keep the EV that I'm going to buy. But I do love the ELR. I mean, it's a gorgeous car. It is a beautiful failure on the part of General Motors. Great car, incredibly poorly marketed. That just sums it up. And if you guys don't remember, I got mine like literally brand new, pennies on the dollar. The sticker price on mine was near $80,000, and with the federal tax credit, brand new, it was $33,000. So kind of couldn't not buy that. Oh, the Clarity. Yeah, the Clarity is a great vehicle. They just didn't make very many of those. I mean, that's almost as rare as the ELR. The Clarity is a great vehicle. Yeah, too bad that Honda didn't make more of those. I have no dreams. I have no fear. I'm free. Well, good for you, Alex. That's a good way to go through life. Can I talk about the Nissan Kicks? Yeah, Nissan Kicks is a perfectly fine, affordable vehicle. Look, Not everybody needs a Porsche 911. And I love Porsches. There's a reason why people aspire to Porsche. They're great. But sometimes you need something really affordable. And the thing about the Nissan Kicks is it's affordable. It looks good. It's roomy. It has a nice interior. It's practical. And it has all of those things. The thing about the Kicks that really sticks out in my mind is it is very underpowered. Let's just call it what it is. Martin and I were going up a very steep hill at one point, and it was like, come on, let's go. But other than that, it drives well. It's relatively quiet. You can get it with some good technology. Um, it's it, it is what it is. I mean, you go in with your eyes wide open. And the great thing about something like that is that if you're a single parent, and you need reliable transportation and you don't know how to buy a used car, something like the Nissan Kicks is terrific because it's going to be reliable for the first 5 years. Almost all cars are these days. And for the first few years of its life, it has a warranty. So it's not like you're going to be paying for expensive repairs. So I would also look at the Chevy Trax and the Buick Envista. They're about the same, league. Those have more power than the Kicks. And I think they drive better too. But yeah, as I always say, test drive at least 3 different vehicles because whatever you're buying is probably a lot of money for you, right? It just makes sense to buy the car that works for you, and you don't know that unless you test drive it. You can't depend on people like me and Savage Geese and Doug DeMuro and all those people. You can't. You have to experience the car for yourself. Let's see. Let's see. Quality, how can you increase the viewership? I don't know. I've tried because, the thing is, look, I put a lot of work into these videos, and I put more work into them than I probably should, because I really sweat the details. As a former, news and production photographer, the visuals are really important to me. And I think that's also important because I tend to zoom in on little details that I think others miss. And so that gives you an idea. I really study the car and I really study the interior so I can give you a visual about, what's really happening with the car. And so I do put a lot of time and effort into these, and I would love it if millions of people watched them. And I have a guy that I talk to at YouTube now, and they're trying to get the numbers up. So I don't know. I think part of it is I don't, this is the 10 reasons why the new, Honda Accord sucks. I don't do that stuff. I don't do the Scotty Kilmer, ranting and raving stuff. And that stuff does really well. It just does. I also don't drive over cars with tanks and things like that. I'm a normal guy, and I'm at the end of the day, normal doesn't really sell. So, but I am doing my best to at least give you guys good information and good photography. And, it's like my whole idea with these things is like sitting down and having a beer with a friend and talking about cars. That's kind of the way my approach to these videos. And I hope the people that watch them like them. I would love to be more popular. Anything you can do, great. Tell your friends, tell your dog, anybody who can, push play on the computer. But thanks for your concern. Let's see. Curious how the charging infrastructure in my area is. Yeah, in the South, charging is awful. My dad retired to Alabama in Gulf Shores. He has an EV6, and it absolutely sucks down there. And he got his EV6 back when they were like wildly popular, and they were most Kia dealerships were charging $5,000 and $10,000 over sticker price. He actually got $2,000 off the price of his car. The folks at Kia were just astonished when I told them that, because Kia corporate has no control over what the dealerships charge, right? They encourage them to not gouge customers because it reflects on them. But yeah, in the South, electric vehicles really haven't caught on, which is kind of surprised because it's warmer down there. The range would be better. Electric vehicles work really, really well for a lot of people. My dad loves his car. I mean, he loves his car, but he's a car guy. He's like me. I got it from my dad. He buys a new car every 2 years, whether he needs it or not. My mom just goes, ugh. So anyways, yeah, in my area, it's not bad. Other than, sometimes the terminals are not working. Electrify America. When I was doing the EQ e-tron back a couple weeks ago, for some reason, it was like there were all these terminals that were out for maintenance, or they were being used. And it's really hard to install level 2 charging at my house, and I'm going to have to do it this year. But it was, I couldn't find a commercial station to charge the damn car. And it's not bad. We have a number of EVgo stations and ChargePoint and Electrify America terminals around. I mean, from a 5-mile radius, I would say there are, in physical terminals, I would say there's a good 30. But half of them were out of commission. And then the other half were, people who, get free charging. So they don't want to charge at home because, it's free at the charging thing. I really wish automakers wouldn't do that, because it just really clogs up the stations. And also, please, folks, EV charging etiquette. If people are waiting, do not charge to 100%. Stop at 80%. Okay. Because it can take much longer to go from 80 to 100% than it does from 5 to 80%. The e-tron, once you hit 80%, it can take a good hour before it gets to 100. So I could go on and on about this, but look, 80% is fine. Get out, let the next person in. Really, it's really important. We all need to work together. All right. Have I seen the Polestar 2? Yes, I have. I've driven it. I haven't driven the updated version of it. I would like to get into that. I like Polestars. It's obviously a Volvo. It was supposed to be the Volvo sedan, and then it was spun off as its own brand. I like it. I have a soft spot in my heart for Volvos. I'm not brand loyal, but my family was protected by a series of Volvos, never their fault. But Volvo versus Semi, Volvo versus Subaru, Volvo versus drunk driver, Volvo versus Ford F-250, with a guy, paying more attention to his phone than my son, who was stopped in traffic. And so that got rear-ended and that was totaled. And we loved that car. It was a XC70 cross country. Such a great car. So may it rest in peace. What would I say? Oh, wait, let's do Porsche first. Now that Porsche's been doing relative mass market cross country, do Do you think Audi will lose its comparison to BMW? Um, you know, Audi's Audi. Audi's always been Audi. I mean, Audi does have some high performance vehicles. The S models, but I don't. Audi is. I think Audi has sort of lost its focus because it used to be, all about that, clean, elegant design with an edge of performance and luxury. And I'm not sure what Audi stands for anymore. I mean, I like Audis; they're great vehicles, but Audi doesn't always come to mind personally. When I think of, oh, I want to buy a really nice car. But then it's like, oh yeah, there's Audi. These days, when I think of like really good car and great design and stuff like that, I think of Genesis. And Genesis is off a lot of people's radar screen because it's doing really bad marketing. It really is. Plus, it doesn't have any independent dealerships. I think there's like 3 or 4 in North America, and it makes a huge deal when they open up a new dealership. Come on, you guys. I mean, I know people that won't buy a Genesis because they simply won't shop at Hyundai dealership. I don't care about a dealership. I plan on buying my car and hoping to never go back to the dealership. But um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Audi does to stand out. I never thought that Audi was like the equivalent of Porsche, and not even really of Mercedes. I always thought Audi was its kind of own little boutique sort of brand. But you marketing a vehicle is really, truly, truly a black art. It really is. It's like I've always said, Cadillac makes really good vehicles. The CT4s, the CT5s, the Lyric. Apparently, the XT4 mid-cycle refresh does a lot to make that a much, much better vehicle. Escalade is not my kind of vehicle, but people love the Escalade. But Cadillac just cannot seem to telegraph the fact that they're making really good cars these days. Their Blackwing vehicles are amazing. And a lot of the real high performance, magazines like Car and Driver and Road and Track think they're just as good, if not better, than BMW M cars. But who knows why that doesn't stick? I don't know. Uh, I'm only an observer, but there's plenty of vehicles that that fly under the radar that I would buy. And if I were buying a gas car, I would try to find a CT4V Blackwing, because they're just great fun. They really are. What would I say about somebody who's looking to start a career in the automotive space, but not at a dealership level? For example, who do you interact with? Boy, that's a catch-22, Dunwell. It really is. I was very lucky because I worked in the media when I started. Cars have always been my command of useless knowledge because I always loved cars. And I worked at the local NBC station. And so every year I would do an automotive special. And so I would go back to Detroit and all that kind of stuff. And then one day I found out that there were press cars available in the Seattle area. And so I started that, and that is how I got my start. But see, I already had that appeal to them, that I had reach, and that's what you need to do. I mean, beg, borrow, scratch, claw your way, write stories, do YouTube videos on your friends' cars, do all of those things, do everything you can. To be really honest with you, it's a brutal business and people don't make an awful lot of money. I mean, it's at the end of the video, it's why I say, hey, look, if you want to support this channel, please do. I have insurance costs that I need to do because, some of these cars that I'm driving can be, 200, $300,000 on occasion. But, just even the regular cars, I need insurance. My gear, I use pro gear, not an iPhone. And so that costs money. But you can do a car review on an iPhone. You just need to spend a little bit more time, being careful with it. The only advice I can give you is do everything you can to position yourself to create content that gets eyeballs and contact places like Drive Shop and NAVS, NAVS. Those are the two outlets, the two agencies that give me my press cars. It's really hard, and I would love to help you. I really would. It's I just find myself very, very lucky. But don't give up, okay? If send me an email, okay? There's a link on my YouTube channel, or it's just my name, Tom Voelk at yahoo.com. And maybe we can work something out. But all right, okay. Any first impressions of the Tonale? Yeah, I like it. It's fun, but that's the whole thing. I love anything with a little bit of performance, and it definitely is different. It's definitely different than the BMW X1 and X2, and I will say it doesn't quite match up to the Porsche Macan, which is considerably more expensive, but the Macan is just magical. There is something about it. I still remember the first time I got into it and thought, all right, Porsche little SUV, big thing. And I didn't go 3 blocks when it was like, oh, this thing is awesome. So, but that's the first impression. That might be next week's review. I'm trying to dig out after Christmas. Paul Moore, you like the lack of clickbait on my channel, thumbnails and videos. Yeah, I know. I could make more money and I could, I think that's part of the reason why I don't have the views that other people do. But, I do what I do. I like giving good, clean information, and whether that's popular or not, I don't know. Oh, done well. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I can buy Martin coffee next Saturday. I don't even know what I'm going to be driving next Saturday. I have not gone through the list that the agency has. So your guess is as good as mine. Okay, coming from a 2016 Honda Accord EX V6. What's the NX 450H Plus? Yeah, I like that vehicle. And that's actually the NX series has always been my favorite over the RX. Personally, I don't like larger vehicles. I like my vehicles to be smaller. Seattle is kind of crowded. The streets are a little bit on the narrow side. Whenever I get an F-150 or a Dodge Ram, it's not Dodge Ram, it's just Ram. Force of habit. It's a little white knuckle because it's really tough to drive those vehicles in an urban setting, and lots of parking garages. Sometimes I can't park in those. So I like the NX. I do feel like the plug-in hybrid definitely has the extra performance, but it is on the pricey side. And I know that Lexus makes very few of those. It's like the RAV4 Prime. Very, very few of those. And, that company talks about electrified and all that sort of stuff. And it just, if they're going to talk about it, I really feel like that company needs to actually build the products in volume so that people can buy them. I mean, it's really hard to find Prius. I know somebody who's been looking for one. The Prius Prime is all but unavailable. I did a search, and within a 500-mile radius, there was one available. So this whole thing about, we can build X number of hybrids for, for one electric vehicle, which also is not true because, typically what Toyota says in their little equation that we can build, I can't remember what it was, 50 hybrids for every one EV. They use a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack as their litmus. And, usually the mainstream ones are like 65 or 70. So even there, they're kind of, they're not, they're not, they're not. Don't get me started. You know, anyways. All right. I'm going to go through a couple more questions and then I have to go. I haven't had my coffee this morning. I got up early to bring my daughter and her fiance to the airport. They're going back to New York. Would you recommend the electrified G80? Yeah, I liked that car. Check out my review. It's a beautiful car. Genesis is absolutely killing it in design. Yeah. Also, Martin, my partner in crime, who drives while I shoot running footage, he's seriously shopping an electrified GV70. His wife really likes it. Of course she does. It's a beautiful car inside and out. And here's the deal. Electrification works really, really, really well when it comes to premium vehicles, to luxury vehicles, because it's everything you want from a luxury vehicle, right? They're quiet, they're super refined, and they're powerful. Yes, but yeah, watch my review. We all know red states, lots of people. You know what? Cars shouldn't be political. Come on, people. Buy the car that works for you. Electric vehicles work really well for a lot of people. They save a lot of gas. Ultimately, depending on how much your electricity is, you can really. I just don't get that. Don't let your car be a political statement. All right. I mean, we are really not to get political here, but you got to drop this crap. We just do. Cars are transportation, and it's just. I'm not going to go any further. Which PHEV surprised me the most this year? Probably the Mitsubishi Outlander. Because I'll be honest with you, I don't really think much of Mitsubishi. The Mirage was a terrible little car. It is. Obviously, if you need a car, and back when it was $14,000, maybe, but now it's like 20. I think the Mitsubishi Mirage. I really wish they would get rid of that third seat though, because it's practically worthless. And it's there for marketing. And it's very difficult to take out. It's not like it can be put in and out very easily. You would have to get your toolkit and spend an hour or two to take that thing out. Brad, thank you very much. I am happy to answer your question. It's always fun to talk to you guys. Again, I think I've said this before, but when I go to these events, apparently other people do watch my videos because they'll always say, your comments are like polite and nice and people are asking real questions and all that. So you know what? I may not be super popular. I may not be Doug DeMiro. But you're real people, and I really appreciate that. It makes my life so much easier. I don't edit any of the comments. That's one of the questions I always get. It's like, I don't. There's occasionally, like once every other month or so, somebody does something just really stupid, and it's just, I'll take it out. But yeah. There you go. Tesla has stolen Audi's niche of minimalist design. Yeah, I get that. I don't find the Y particularly good looking though. It's kind of like a guppy. And the front end, there's this Norwegian cartoon character. Can't remember what it is, and it just sort of reminds me of that. And I mean, Tesla's done a great job of making the electric car cool, but man, oh man, it really needs to do some mid-cycle refreshes at the very least on its vehicles. And I know that the Model 3 has a new, refresh coming out, but it's not much. I think it's the cabin that gets most of the interior, that gets most of the upgrades, which is good because people call Teslas luxury vehicles, and I very, very strongly disagree with that. They're not luxury vehicles. They're regular vehicles that are very expensive. I actually find their interiors kind of bland and kind of plain. It's like IKEA type grade stuff. My take on it. Plus, I mean, the big screen is nice, I guess, but I see that as it's cost cutting. It is. It's like the more buttons and knobs that you eliminate, it means it's cheaper to build the car. Tesla has done awesome marketing to sell that as a feature, not a bug, but there are a few hard buttons that I feel like are really important, like HVAC controls. Just I need to get to those quickly, and I don't want to take my eyes off the road, and I don't want to scroll through things. Transmission controls. I want a lever for that. Call me old school, but that turn signal stocks. Uh, I want my turn signals in a place where they always are, not on a movable space. But get off my lawn. Do I have any information about the Traverse and Acadia? No, other than they've been delayed. And I know that Chevy is going to be selling the current generation Traverse as the Traverse Classic, something like that. But I don't right now. Typically, I'm always looking and I'm always aware of what's coming out and all that kind of stuff. But typically, I don't do the deep dive until I actually get the car. Let's see. Oh yeah. Not so delusional. I've actually got a couple free hours today, so that's why I decided to do this. Before you buy an Ioniq, check out the seats for a long drive. Yeah, Mark, I believe the seats are different. I mean, I know that the two companies, share a lot of components, but I'm pretty sure those seats are different. That's weird. If seats are your thing, check out a Volvo. Honest to God. And I am not alone on this. Volvo, best seats ever. They're terrific. Pre-price hike Rivian R1S versus Volvo EX90. What's the better family hauler? So I've driven briefly the Rivian, but the EX90 to me right now is vaporware. So can't speak to it. I really can't. I know that Volvo does great seats, and Volvo does really nice interiors. They're very calming. They're very rich. I love Volvo interiors, and especially their higher end stuff. The C40 Recharge and XC40 Recharge, not as much. And I really want to drive the EX30. I hear great things about that vehicle. I didn't get invited on the press launch on that, which disappoints me. Oh well. So I'm sorry I can't help you there, but maybe wait for the Volvo. The Volvo is on a newer platform. It's certainly not built on the same one as the XC40 Recharge. But I don't know. I'm afraid I can't help you there. Um, but uh, there's also, you know, I mean, if you need 3 rows, the Kia EV9, which I'm going to be driving in 3 weeks. I'm going to an event on that. I've seen it in person, and it's very, very cool. Polarizing design again, just like the Ioniq 6. But yeah, that's the only other one that I can tell you that comes to, that's top of mind. Subi Crosstrek Wilderness. I like that. I don't know that you need the Wilderness though. I think it's the sport model that's one down. It comes with the bigger engine. It comes with some of the trim panel, but it doesn't get the 3/4 of an inch lift. The So it's like $4,000 less if you go with the sport. So, do that. So, check out those. But I do have a review of the Crosstrek Wilderness. So, check those out. I like it. It's affordable. It very closely became one of my top 11 lists because I actually think it's one of the best Subarus you can buy. But watch out for those head gasket problems. There's a lot of people in Seattle that have Subarus, and I hear a lot of problems with head gaskets. It's a thing. Wire to vegan leather or the brand names. Yeah, I know. Vegan leather, which actually, fun fact I've heard, is not actually really vegan. There are they do have to use some components from animals, and I can't remember what it was, but a lot of them aren't true vegan. It's sort of like the days when McDonald's used real beef flavoring for their French fries. Here's the thing. Little known fact, I used to wear test for Nike because I used to do a lot of running. And I talked to their folks that develop shoes. And at the time, they said that the synthetic leather was actually more durable than the regular leather, which is why they would use synthetic leather. My guess is that synthetic leather is less expensive because, automakers are always trying to save a buck because, if they're making 250,000 cars and they're saving $1 on every one of those cars, well, that's 2 people that they can pay. As the automotive PR people will often say, cars are a series of compromises. That's why I really like a good mainstream car. Luxury cars, you can throw the kitchen sink at them, you can throw everything in them and charge a lot of money for them. It's no big deal. But to make a appealing, affordable car is really tough. Really is. So yeah, check out the Crosstrek Wilderness. Let's see. Let's see. Pierre, love how you like the lights in the GMC Canyon were moved into the screen rather than a button. Yeah, you know what? That whole thing, there are people that are like, oh, clutch the pearls. They've put the lights on a touch screen. And it's like, so honestly, they're pinned to the screen, right? They're always there. It's not like you have to go through a menu to turn the lights on. In my personal cars, I leave the lights on auto and I never have an issue. I realize that in some cases that you want, to change the lights and all. Somebody told me on military bases, you need to be able to do that. I don't go to military bases very often. So I don't know. Personally, I don't think that's a big deal, putting that on the touch screen, as long as it's not moving and as long as it's not buried into a menu. So, all right, folks, I'm going to wrap this up because I haven't had my coffee. it's been a busy morning. So I hope you all have a good 2024. And, tell your friends about the channel. And, feel free to support the channel using super thanks and send me some cash on Venmo. Um, Tom Volk, Voelk. Every little bit helps. I need to go put gas in the Alfa Romeo Tonale. It is a plug-in hybrid, but we did a lot of testing and did a lot of hard driving with it this weekend. And so burned through some gas. But that's what's fun about this job. It's not really about making money. It's about, delivering good content. So hope you're enjoying it. All right. And how about those football games last night? I mean, I'm not a huge football fan, but fun fact, my father-in-law got his education at the University of Michigan, and then was a professor at the University of Washington. So the championship game is going to be a real good one for us. It's super cool. All right. Hope you had fun. Hope you found this remotely interesting or entertaining. And talk to you soon, folks. Bye now. Signing off. Got to go through all the software stuff.